The film look has always fascinated me, and despite the revolution in the digital world, cameras coming out with 4K, 6K, 8K resolution, flat profile and color presets, but still, we can't seem to let go. Now, many projects that came out recently had the film look with it, and as a person in the creative industry, I wanted to do that, but every tutorial I try to check out, I tend to end up with some bad grain overlays or some bad looking footage. That was until Dehancer reached out and they wanted me to, quote unquote, produce a honest review of their film emulator plugin, and I knew I had to check this out. 17 different main controls to work with, 60 plus film stocks to choose from, and without forgetting bloom, halation, and film grain, which are pretty impressive in this tool that sets it aside from many others that are out there. The film grain, for example, it has an algorithm that integrates into the footage, highlights, colors, and saturation, and doesn't just sit there as an overlay. And what's a film look without halation? I'll tell you more about this as we go along. Once you got Dehancer installed, just go in on the effects panel and type in Dehancer Pro and you'll find it. Take it as a regular effect and apply it on the video that you want to work on. You'll see we have a window here with all these options to work with. Input here, we have the source here, and you have different sources here to choose from, but I'll select choose camera. Source gives you the option to choose a camera that you used to film with. I remember this footage was shot on the M50. Choose here Canon M50 neutral. Just remember to work with the white balance and exposure on the settings that you see. Increase the exposure of the film stock. Here you have, okay, you can change here the temperature, you can change the tint and everything here. On the profile, you have the option to choose a film stock. More than 60 film stocks to choose from here, as you can see. This right here is a film stock. Currently here we are on the Kodak Vision 250. I pretty much like the Kodak Vision 500. It goes with the white balance I have. Before, film stocks used to come with a dedicated ISO, which determines the exposure. For example, this one is a 100 ISO film stock. But let's say that you want to produce it with the exposure of 50 ISO, which will give you a finer grain, but also it will be more exposed. So what do? You actually pull the film, and if let's say this is 100 ISO and you wanted to produce it with a film with an ISO of like 200 or let's say 400, you actually push the film, and that's the options that you are given below on the film. And once you get your film stock selected, you have the option to push or pull the film here. Film developer is when they used to take the film and put it in the chemicals like the developer, prepare it for actually printing it out, which determines also the exposure and the colors. And that's the same thing, you're given here the options to boost the color. And boosting the color is different from saturation, because in films you can see like this red light, right? It's not saturated, but the color, the red color is a bit dense. So boost the contrast here, you can boost the gamma correction. On the film compression, you have different options here to change the white points. If you don't want to make it extremely white, you tone it down. Make it like 50. On the expand here, you can change the white and black points here. After shooting any film, it had to be printed out. You have different prints that you will put them, and you can see you have been given different options here. You can switch it to like Kodak Dura, Kodak 23A3 print. You have Fuji, but also you have Cine on film log, which is like flat profile. I like the Fujifilm here, so I will just use this one. Also, you have here the options to change the whites here, the temperature of it, the exposure, the tonal contrast, the color density here. Also, you can boost the color density, like if you see on the yellows here on my film. If I change the color density here, it comes from pale and to like this deep color. But you can also see like it affects here the skin tones. So I won't go crazy with it, maybe like 20, you know. And make sure that every effect that you work on here is enabled. The color head is like the color grading. If you want to do like extra color grading on your film, you can work on the color head here, and make sure that it's enabled here, so as you can see the effect in real time. So right now it's enabled, and if I change like the yellow here, you can see if I change the greens here, the red, everything that you touch will be affected. But this is basically like your color grading, so you can change the shadows here, the tone of the shadows, or the midtones here, the skins, and the highlights, you know. But I'll just leave it like this because I don't need to go into color grading right now. The film grain here, as we said, it actually integrates into the footage, highlights and colors, and it doesn't just sit there as an overlay. You can change the amount of the film grain here. I won't touch that one. You can change the resolution, film resolution, and some people think like when you are working on a film, you are not making it extremely sharp, but you are actually decreasing the size of the film resolution, because the films were not that sharp back in the days. So don't make the film too sharp. You can leave it on 50%. I'll put it like 40%. And the magic happens when you switch it from negative to positive. Back in the days, you used to film in negative, then you switch it into positive while you are printing. The film grain actually changes and integrates in the footage, as you can see background right here on our talent right here. Whenever you watch any film, you will actually see the blown out highlights, reddish color that comes out. That is actually halation. The analog film cameras used to have 3 layers in the color separation: the blue, the green, and the red. Now the red used to be close to the anti-halation filter. Whenever light passes into the lens, into the camera, it used to go back and bounce into the anti-halation. Now if the anti-halation was not absolutely black, the highlight usually reflects back into the red channel, get absorbed into the shadows and the highlights, and that's how you achieve the film halation. You see this logo right here, this is white. So if we enable here halation, you can see it has like a reddish highlight. You can increase and decrease the halation here by working with the local and global diffusion. Local diffusion is halation coming out from the highlights, and global diffusion is halation coming into the shadows. So if I change here the local diffusion, you can see it pops up even on the edges of our talent here. And same goes if we change the global diffusion here, as you can see. So just increase a little bit so you can get here the edges here, the highlights on the edges here, logo right, but don't go too crazy with this. Every film look has that kind of glowy effect to it, and that's the bloom. It's actually due to the lens imperfection with the reflective coating. Old lenses tend to have old reflective coating, or it doesn't have a reflective coating at all, and that makes it give you this glowy effect to it. So I'm gonna amplify this a little bit and increase the details here, change the impact here, reduce it to like make it like 50. Work with the diffusion here, and I think that's good. Vignette here, if you see like these shadows in the corners here, or highlights that vignette, so you can work on that, but I'm not going to touch on that. Film breathing is the result of the imperfection of the filming process, and maybe sometime into the projector, you know, screening it into people. Imperfection of the highlights, the color changes, the highlight changes throughout the film. It's actually the flickering of the lights that you see in old films. Once you enable it here, you can change the impact here if you want it to be 100%, and you can change the period here. It makes your footage flicker a little. Okay, film breathing can simply be described as the footage you see right now. Get wave is the subtle shake that you see in the film. Now, if you have watched Charlie Chaplin films, you can see throughout the film it tends to be shaking. You can actually change here. You have different options to apply get wave to it. So once it's enabled here, you have here the options to auto zoom here, or you can actually scale it up yourself. But I like the auto zoom because it works, it calculates everything, or the shakes, and you know, works everything right for you. And you can change here the period of how you want it to move around around. Film was not static, so it tends to move around and stuff. So that's what you get here on the gate wave. False color helps you double check your film emulation process, and once you check false color here, it actually helps to see places that are over highlighted and stuff, and you can actually go back and work on your color grading, your highlights and shadows. Here you can change the total output of how much you want your changes to be applied to the final. In LUT generator, you can produce your own LUTs. So let's say you have done this film emulation process, that it has gone well and you can see you're happy with the results, but you don't want to go back and do the process once again. But also it's pretty heavy on your graphics, so if you don't want to like do that all the time or throughout the entire project, you can actually print out a film LUT of your film emulation, and you can just use the LUT anytime that you are working with a different project or throughout the same project that you are working with. And actually export LUT here. You can actually come and save your LUT here, and you can use it anytime that you want to use. If you actually export the LUT, it's much easier to just come back and apply it on your project, and it won't take too much power on your computer. And you can see here, if we look at the before and after, you can see this is what we had before and this is what we have after. So it's a pretty powerful tool when it comes to getting that film look, the authentic film look, because it actually emulates how the filming process was done with a real film camera, and not just, you know, putting an overlay on top of your footage and stuff. So I've used it for like a month now, and I can tell you that I really do not want to let this thing go. If you think that this one will help you out in your projects, go check it out on the link in the description down below, and you can actually get 10% off your purchase when you use the promo code CAS6255. Go check out if you really want to get this film emulator in your hands, and remember to use the promo code CAS6255. Until next time, it's your boy Cas6 Creativity. Go out there and create something awesome.